Is Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax the best deck in the format, also known as the BDIF? That is the question we are going over in today's video. Yo, what's up guys? Alien ESP here, back for another video. Hope you're all doing well, but as I had said, as you can saw by the title of this video, in today's video we're going with one of the poster boys of Chilling Reign, none other than Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. Ever since this card first released, it's taken the competitive scene by storm. This card has everything you want in a card. It is so powerful, and we're answering the question in today's video, is it the best deck in the format? Because I've heard so many people on the TCG side of Pokemon asking that question. I'm bringing you guys my 2 cents on the matter, and to be honest, I do think my answer is pretty on point. So without further ado, let's get right into it, baby. So first of all, I really do think we should kick the main part of this video off of what I do believe that makes a good TCG card in Pokemon. First of all, the most obvious choice, I'm going to get out the way right at the start, it needs to have a good attack. Every good card in the Pokemon TCG does an attack which deals more than enough damage to knock out your opponent's active Pokemon. Second of all, you need some sort of good draw support, whether that be in the form of supported trainers or abilities like we see with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. Every good card, whether that be all-in-one card or a good 60 card combination, needs some sort of efficient, great way to draw into your cards, allowing you to execute your strategy much quicker, making your deck overall just a lot more consistent. And third, but finally not and certainly not least, you need energy acceleration. You need an efficient way and quick way to get your energy type on the field, allowing you to dish out your damage, whether that be just to meet the required amount, or maybe you want to go up and beyond to put more energy on the field, because maybe you're dealing with a card just like Shadow Rider which does more damage based off the amount of energy on the field. So those are the 3 things which I do believe make up a good TCG card. And out of these 3 things, what does Shadow Rider have? We know it's got the fantastic attack in the form of Max Geist, doing 10 base damage and an extra 30 damage for all psychic type energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Really strong ability, you can just keep attaching manually or through abilities, and we'll get to that in a second, and that just increases your damage cap. Next up, number 2, let's go to consistency. We can see consistency perfectly in the form of Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax's ability, none other than Underworld Door. What a spooky name, I know, perfect for the holiday season. This also links with number 3 with Underworld Door combining both drawing and energy acceleration. So let's get that 2 birds with 1 stone. Underworld Door reads, you may attach once during your turn, attach a psychic energy to your hand to one of your bench psychic Pokemon. Then if you do that, draw 2 cards. Fantastic all around, getting you energy on the field, then drawing more cards. That is fantastic. If you have ever played Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax, you know how great it feels when you have multiple Shadow Rider Vmaxes on the field. Underworld Door once, draw 2, and then you draw into another psychic energy if you do not already have one. That just lets the draw cards and the energy acceleration keep on coming. You may be thinking, what if you somehow lose your energy on the field? If your opponent finds a way to remove your energy on the field, whether that be through knocking out or cards like Crushing Hammer, you may be sat there thinking, well, my strategy has gone out the window because I want energy on deck and they're getting rid of it. Well, in Rebel Clash, we saw the introduction of a stadium card known as Training Court. Training Court allows each player once during their turn to get a basic energy from their discard and put it into their hand. So that gives you some sort of recovery. Of course, you also do have things like Ordinary Rod to get it back in the deck, but Training Court is very useful, especially if you're discarding now, and we'll get to discarding energy in a moment. We'll look at the pairs we can see with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. So what are the pairs that we are most often seeing with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax? The biggest is definitely being Alcremie Vmax. Has 2 attacks. The first attack for 1 psych energy is none other than Adornment, and for each of your benched Pokemon, you may search your deck for 1 psychic energy and attach it to all of them. Super useful, getting you more energy on the field, increasing that damage cap for both Shadow Rider and Alcremie. How does Alcremie do increased damage, you may be asking? Well, it's a second attack, the G-Max Whisper for 2 colorless energy, but you're going to going to be doing Psychic Energy. Discard any amount of Psychic Energy from any of your Pokemon, whether that be Alcremie, Inactive, or Bench, and does a whopping 60 times for each Psychic Energy discarded in this way. Honestly, mind-blowing. If you discard 5, sometimes 6 energies, you're already knocking out basically, if not all cards in the format. Super strong, letting you easily, and I mean easily, take knockout on those hefty VMAXs. Rayquaza VMAX in your way, knock it out. Eternatus, knock it out. Urshifu, both single and rapid strike, bye-bye. Super OP. As I was mentioning, since you are discarding your energy, one of the most useful methods to get it back would of course be that training court. You can only get it back once, however, that still is fantastic enough. As well as that, in Shadow Rider decks, you often do have a very high number. From what I really like from my testing, I like the number 13 energy, super high, way higher than other decks. You know, if you barely know anything about Shadow Rider and just been playing with other decks, I mean, how can you not play with this insane boy? You put like 13 energy, you must be madman. But no, it really does work, and you do need these high amounts of energy for Shadow Rider, because if you're going down the Shadow Rider route with attacking with Max Geist, you want all the energy on the field. And if you're going down the Alcremie route, you want to have much energy as possible, both in the deck and on the field. On the field to dish out that damage, but you also need energy in the deck to get it back in format, in play. Because yes, Training Court is great and all, but realistically, 1 energy a turn, yeah, it's better than getting none energy a turn back, but you still need to get some more out on the field. Because realistically, if you only get 1 on the field a turn, 60 damage a turn is not going to do it. You guys have seen the power creep, just the numbers of health and attacks going to the roof. It's honestly crazy. But what more text could you put with Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax? Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax is honestly such a strong card. I've said this several times. Realistically, Shadow Rider Vmax is just really a skeleton, and what you choose to build it around is the skin of the deck. You know, it's so fantastic and basically work with any psychic types out there. If you want to go a bit further back in time, before the rotation happens, you could see Peel pairing with Gengar and Mimikyu GX, or was that Trevnar and Dusknoir GX. That really just shows how flexible this card is. You know, it's not just the Alcremies which are seeing play. You know, previously we saw it seeing play with the tag team psychics, and we even seeing some people going into tournaments using this deck on the card alone. Super strong. Shadow Rider VMAX is strong enough to fend itself on its own. You know, some deck lists are just doing the 4-4 line and no other attackers to assist it. If that doesn't show the power of this horse fight, I simply do not know what will. But let's look at a few more of the techs. One of the techs which came out in Shadow Rider's initials set, being Chilling Reign, would be Cresselia. Cresselia is here for that Crescent Glow attack. You know, a lot of decks I wanted to go first in the current standard format, including Shadow Rider, but if you do go second, you know, you can quickly recover from that by using Crescent Glow, which allows normally to search a deck for 1 psychic energy. If you go second, it's your first turn, you can then search for 3. Pretty strong attack. The second attack can also help that Decidueye matchup. A lot of you guys at home in black, Decidueye is seeing no play. But because of Decidueye's nature, blocking all attacks from Vs, Vmaxes and GXs, but GXs have rotated that now, Decidueye really just does well when people forget about it. When Decidueye is put away and people forget about it and it leaves its mind, that's when it is its time to shine. When people start shoving their decks full to the brim with those Vs and Vmaxes, some decks only using Rulebox Pokemon, the Vs and Vmaxes, like Sylveon Vmax for example, that is when Decidueye has its time to shine. Because if you forget about it and you don't have a tech to it and you run into it, well, you're kind of stuck. To be fair, it is an ugly matchup coming across Decidueye without having a tech. So one of the techs to Decidueye would of course be Cresselia. Another tech to it would of course be Galarian Articuno, not the V from Chilling Reign, instead the regular holographic or pre-release promo we saw with Evolving Skies. Its attack for 2 Psych Energy and 1 Colorless means you have to discard all Psych Energy from it and then do 120 to any of your opponent's Pokemon. Of course, you do not apply weakness and resistance to the bench Pokemon. It is also very easy to get energy onto Galarian Articuno, both with the Shadow Rider acceleration and its ability Cruel Charge, stating when you put it on the bench, you then may have to attach up to 2 Psych Energies from your hand to it. Very useful for those kind of matchups. Now, how does Shadow Rider compare to a lot of decks out there? Right now in the format, we are seeing most of the best decks in a weakness triangle almost. What does the weakness triangle mean? Well, if you take a look at the biggest decks in the format, what is the common theme? We have Shadow Rider, a psychic type. Urshifu, both single and rapid strike, seeing a load of play, and that is fighting type. And Darkness is also doing well. The turn just popping up here and there over in Japan. Gengar and Mimikyu. Umbreon VMAX popping up a lot of places as well, and that is Dark type. Well, what are these cards weak to? Fighting is weak to Psychic. Psychic is weak to Dark, and Dark is weak to Fighting. There's a common link with most of the best decks in the format right now, and that is they're weak to each other. You've got your Urshifus, and that is weak to Shadow Rider, but Shadow Rider is weak to your Dark cards, and Dark is weak to your Urshifus at the top. We are seeing a common link here where a lot of the best decks are weak to each other. So how does this act on Shadow Rider? Well, Shadow Rider hits weakness on your Urshifu, so you really are fine there. But when it comes to the Dark matchups, man, that can be very, very scary. You know, you take a look at your big Dark hitters, they really don't have to have much damage on the board. They can easily knock out your Pokemon, especially Shadow Rider, which is weak to it. One thing I've seen a lot of people try and do is the Alcremie route, because Alcremie, unlike your other attackers, is weak to Metal rather than Darkness, and that can be very, very useful. One Tech Eye in my Shadow Rider deck, I did a full deck profile on this channel, by the way, if you want to check that. It's got a lot of views, very grateful for that. It's actually having the old Cemetery Stadium. From my testing personally, I've realised that dropping those extra damage counters on your opponent's Dark types really, really can help in that matchup. Yeah, you've got the weakness, and it really does feel like an uphill battle with them having that weakness on you, but old Cemetery dropping those damage counters here and there can help you in those matchups. It's not just pure Dark types having Dark types. So yeah, most decks have Crobat V, but they're not attacking with that. So many decks these days have teched in that Galarian Moltres V because they've seen how powerful Shadow Rider is. They put in Galarian Moltres V, a card which can easily self-accelerate to itself for that matchup, and it really can be helpful in those decks. So you really do have to be careful. Now, yes, this video is more tailored to the current format, where I do believe Shadow Rider is one of, if not the best decks. But if we take a look at what is coming in the future, just to prepare you guys a bit, we're not going to look at celebrations. That set is barely, if not at all, going to affect the meta game. But if we take a look at the final set of this year, Fusion Strike, or in Japan, Fusion Art, we can see a huge Gigantamax Dark-type Pokemon coming. That is none other than Gengar VMAX. Gengar VMAX, just like Umbreon VMAX, is a single strike Pokemon, and it punishes you for having Vs and GXs on the board. Now, GXs has since rotated out, but Vs are still seeing a load of play, especially in Shadow Rider, with essentially all of your bench being full of Vs, unless you put down a Cresselia or Galarian Articuno. This really, really can be tricky, and it's looking like when this card comes across, this card will overtake the meta game, because Gengar VMAX pairs perfectly with Umbreon VMAX. Both being single strike attackers and Dark types means you can easily use single strike energy to 1, count for your energy cost, and 2, increase your damage. Is looking very, very scary, as well as if you try to hide by putting something which isn't weak to Darkness in the front, they have the built-in ability of none other than Umbreon VMAX to gust that right to the front. Umbreon's VMAX ability reads out a Dark Signal. That is the name of the ability. When you evolve it from the V to the VMAX, you may switch your opponent's active with their bench. Super, super powerful. Very reminiscent of the supporter card Boss's Order and the ability of a previous Pokemon being Lycanroc GX. And if you want to go super, super, super back in time to the archives of Pokemon, as I call it, we see this ability on Luxray level X. Gusting is over and just a fantastic effect, whether that be in an evolution ability like Umbreon VMAX, whether it be in a 1 per turn supporter card like Boss Order. I mean, hey, Pokemon Catcher, which had a 50-50 chance of gusting, still saw a lot of play, because gusting is that powerful and that effective when the TCG, and it's something you need to worry out for. Yes, this video is more made to the current format, the Sword and Shield to Evolving Skies format, but realistically, I do want to remind you guys to keep your eye on Japan. With Japan receiving the cards early, being its standard legal, and they can use it in tournaments early, it really does allow us English players and players just around the rest of the world to see what the current meta game is. And man, I really am nervous for when these Dark types come and how it will affect Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. I think currently Shadow Rider VMAX is one of, if not the best decks in the format. For comment question of the day, what do you think is the best deck in the format? I totally cannot see so many of you guys saying Shadow Rider, because it is that powerful. Having those 3 things, which I personally think does make up a good card. All in one card is super, super good. But when the Dark types start taking over the format, it's going to be crazy, honestly. Weakness is such a big thing in the Pokemon format. The fact you can do double damage on your opponent's Pokemon is honestly crazy, and realistically makes it twice as easy to win the game if you think about it like that. So right now I can see Shadow Rider right at the top of the pyramid. When all these dark types come over and take over, it's definitely going to be tricky for Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. That is all for me into this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. It is the best thing to do for the channel, and it's free, so it helps me out. Why not do it? I've been Alien ESP. Make sure to answer comment question today. You guys have been the best. I mean the best on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.